Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I am McSnazzi, and we're going to play in Planet Zoo again today in our Timber Gorge playthrough. Thank you to everyone who watched episode 1 and episode 2. We're going to start here moving past the front gate. We're going to be starting building up this plaza. And we're going to be doing a lot of different things in this video today. It's sort of spread out into a lot of different things. And the first thing we're going to start doing is some terrain work. This is going to be the gorge in our Timber Gorge Zoo. A gorge is sort of like a steep canyon with a river at the bottom of it. I thought it sounded a lot interesting than Timber River. So really it's just going to be a river for our purposes here. And this does change a little bit from this first initial terraforming that I do. And I will cut to the changes here in a moment. Now you can see we've made, well, you probably can't see necessarily right now, but we've made the river a lot skinnier. We've added some more pathing, but don't worry about that raised path over there. We're gonna change it anyway here soon. I kind of jumped around while recording this video, so it's a little sporadic, but I've edited it so it looks pretty good. Here we're gonna be starting the big main thing of this video, which is going to be our staff center. Now, in order to place exhibits and animals in this game, you need to have all these staff buildings first. I don't know the list off the top of my head, but it's basically every staff building that they have in the game, just to make sure the zoo can operate before you start plopping animals down. So before I could start making animals, and I really wanted to jump in and not have another just build episode this week and build an exhibit instead so we can see some of these nice animals, we kind of had to put down these staff buildings, because without the staff buildings we can't put the animals down. So I apologize for not having animals this week, but I promise next week we're going to have animals in episode 3. I've already recorded it, and I won't spoil what animal it is, but I really like how it turned out in the end. So here we're going to be starting outlining the building. It does go through a lot of different variations. I do edit out most of the variations, but this is sort of the last variation that we go with. This is the one that it looks like in the end, and it changes a little bit as we build it here. I wanted to build a building where I could put every individual staff building within. So instead of having a bunch of different little buildings that have the different staff buildings, like the quarantine, the animal trading center, the veterinarian place center thing, I wanted to have them all in one big staff center. Now, of course, we're going to have more staff buildings throughout the zoo that are not just in the staff center, but this is going to be like the main staff center. I assume at a zoo they have like a main office. This is sort of the thing I wanted to go for here. It's out of the way, it's by the front entrance. As you see at the end of this video, it's going to be connected to the front entrance here with a little staff path, but that's neither here nor there right now. I do cut there. We sort of go through a couple roof variations here. We end up going with this in the end. I tried some more pitched roof, but it just ended up looking like a big barn to me, and I didn't really want it to look like a big barn. I want it to look a little more modern without looking completely modern, like blocky, all glass walls and everything. I want it to look like, like an office building. Not necessarily an office building, but like a cool office building you'd see in a zoo, I guess. The main building, this is where all the staff is. This is where everyone comes to work every day who's not necessarily part of the zoo operations and part of like the business, side of everything. I don't know if zoos have a CEO, but, like a president or whatever zoos have, I'm not entirely sure. Would probably work here from day to day. Ideally, One of the things that's kind of been bugging me is you can't multi-select a lot of the same items that you could back in Planet Coaster and change their colors. Here I had to change every individual color of those roof tiles, and it was just a pain. And I hope they add that in like an update. Here we're going to be starting putting down the actual staff buildings here. I kind of like how they look in this game. They look like they're base drywall buildings that you can be very creative with. So I wanted to shove as many of them in here as I could, and I ended up filling all the space. Got every essential building that we need, and even get to choose some of the larger versions of the building in order to, help out with the staff bottleneck that you may have in these zoos, because you do need a lot of space for multiple caretakers, zookeepers, etc., staff rooms, in order to make sure the animals are always at high welfare and getting fed, but we'll get more into that later. I cut right there because the pathing took me forever to get in this building, with the weird camera angle being inside here, along with, you know, how lovely the path system is in this game in general. It took me a bit to make it how it is, and that's basically as clean as I could get it. I wish I could have got it a little more clean, I wish I could just put the whole path through, you know, in all those little spots, but you know, you can't always have what you want. Here I always wanted to move through and sort of put windows where all these windows look, because in these new staff buildings in this game, you see these nice interiors in them. I think they look great and they need to show. You can see it. It adds a lot more depth to the building with those windows, because you can kind of look in and see that there's stuff going on in there. And here's me looking through them just to make sure I got every window taken care of. I wanted to try to make this kind of walk in here, me testing if I want to just put doors on and have people just walk through it, but I did all the work on the inside, so I wanted to keep it looking like I did all the work by leaving it open. It looks like a big barn door is open, but I think it works for this build. Here I'm just gonna move over these utilities. I think they looked a lot better over behind here, because we're actually gonna put something right where those were, and that's probably my favorite part of this whole video. So we'll wait to see it for now, but it does look great. Big cut there. We're editing this building. We're adding a little more depth to it. We're using these concrete pillars. Not a huge fan after I built this, realizing that these concrete pillars don't necessarily work as a border for a wood building like this. I think in the end it looks fine. It looks good. But after playing this game for a few more days now, and now going back and recording this voiceover, I found a lot more pieces that would have been better here. So we might go back and fix in the future, and I might fix it off camera. But really, I'm just going through and putting it around everything, adding a little more pop to the building, so it's less monochromatic and just this wood shape. This is the next day after I built some of the first day. I decided that sign was just awful. It was way too small, it didn't look good, so we removed it. And then we're going to put in this sign right here, a little bit of staff only, so, you know, guests know not to cross the bridge, because this is the staff center and they're not supposed to cross the bridge. And guests know that because of these staff paths, but, you know, just a little more realism to add. Here I wanted a nice big staff center sign. I guess I'm happy with it. I think it looks good. It might be a little too kind of like crazy for like a staff center sign. I just wanted like a solid concrete rectangle that I could just write staff center across, but I didn't really find a piece that fit that. So, you know, this looks good. to finish up the building. Really, we're just gonna go through here and we put all the borders of those pillars around the whole thing to add that color change and depth. Now we're gonna add some windows, so it looks like stuff actually goes on in here. I didn't want to necessarily put windows right where those other windows were, so I didn't want to put a bunch of windows, but we're gonna put some over here where the walls are a little bare, so it just looks like it has a little more meaning to these little spots where they're bare. And over here along the side, I like putting these up so they kind of look like they're maybe sunlights or a second story of some sorts. So it just looks this building has a little more going on to it than we necessarily see. Now we're moving on to my favorite part of this build, even though it's probably not that important to the build in general. It's just this little outshed that I'm going to build here. It's super simple, but I think it really ties everything that we're building here together, and it makes it look just super realistic, and that's why I love it. You know, the simple things in these builds make the biggest differences, is what I think. So here we're just making a little 1x2 shed here. You know, we're using the basic wood pieces, making it very bland, because that's what a shed would look like. This is not no focal point. Guests aren't even supposed to see this, so this is just backstage to the max. You know, it's just a bland looking shed. And I really like how it turned out in the end. So here I'm trying to mess with the paths, making sort of this like entrance area. I wish I could make the staff paths just regular asphalt, but I didn't want any guests coming back here, so we're gonna leave that for now. Here I'm using some of the exhibit barriers, just the chain link fence that you can use for the animals. It just looks perfect here because it's like a little bit of an outline to the shed area, making it look like it actually has like a defined area it's supposed to be in. So I think it looks really nice. A little bit of terrain painting also goes a long way there. We're going to start some rock work here. Now this is something I'm going to do along the whole river, and most of it's going to be off camera, so don't worry, you're not going to watch a 20-minute video of me just doing rock work along the river. But I just wanted to show a little bit of what I do here in this video, so when you see in maybe the next video that I just have a ton of rocks along the river, you know how I did it. So I'm not leaving anything to the imagination here. We're gonna go over here for a quick side, just a tiny bit more rock work. I promise there's not a ton here, but we put a little foliage out here in front of these windows, and I think it looks really nice. Here we're just filling in a lot of empty spaces. Anywhere there's empty spaces I want to put foliage, it makes it look natural, realistic, and it just fills the area. It makes them look nicer. You know, it's a double whammy there. You're putting in a realistic aspect, but you're also making your build just look better because there's not empty green space necessarily. Here's a little bit of a thing that you guys can use in your zoos. In these little backstage areas, and I really love what we did here, is we put just random junk. You know, we look through the prop list, we find these like fences and etc., and we just use them. And it's really simple as that. Just lay them down on the ground randomly. It makes it look like it's a bunch of random junk that you'd find in these sort of backstage areas of a zoo. You know, this little crappy shed to the side that guests aren't supposed to see. It's just a bunch of broken props from the zoo. It just looks really great. It's an extra level of detail that I think just really ties this whole episode together, and I'm so glad that we ended up building in the end. So really I'm just gonna end up filling a lot of these areas here towards the end here, and we're gonna move into some glam shots. Before we do that, I want to show something that I did off camera so we didn't have too much building and too much front entrance stuff this episode. So here's something I built. It's an information booth and a first aid area. There's no first aid in this game, but I put a sign there. It's just a little thing to the side when you walk into this plaza, and I think it looks great, and it ties back into this staff center. I also added these little gondolas by these doors in the front entrance here, and we extended the plaza out a little bit. So here's really what the build looks like. Here's the glam shots. I think it turned out great, you know, a lot of detail here just for a simple thing that is really functional. It's really there just for function. I really wanted to build an animal, but I promise next week we'll have one. So that's that. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and tune in next week for our next episode where we'll have our first actual exhibit. Thank you guys. I'll see you next time.